So welcome back to another episode of Weekly Abductions. Like we said in our unacknowledged video, we are coming out with the next three files, which is 4, 5, and 6, which brings us to our first case file, which is CO5515646. So in this file it was 95% redacted, but the little information that it had on it, we were able to search in the wiki links and find more information. So in the wiki links, we found that King Hassan II requested any information that the United States government had about the sighting in September 19 of 1976. 4 days later, the commander of the Gendarmerie requested information from the United States Defense Attaché and Rabbit, which the 4 days later matches the same time as the file that the CIA released. In the meeting, the Morocco commander mentioned that there has been multiple sightings across the country in the night sky. So the U.S. Defense wrote a cable to Washington saying that although the sightings were in separate spots, they were remarkably similar. Next day, the attaché met with another gendarmerie who actually witnessed the sighting. So the officer described that when he saw it, the object was flying parallel with the coast, and he thought it was at first a plane that was just trying to land, but as it came closer, he noticed that there was no landing gear, and the object was more looked disc-shaped, but then the more it came closer, it was a luminous, tubular-shaped object. Like a cigar, kind of like this stick, but it would be like a little bit more round on either sides of it. So 1 day later, on September 25th, the attaché wrote Washington again that they wanted to pursue King Hassan's request and further investigate the sighting, though they did mention that they did not know what to make of the sighting as of yet. So 1 week later, on October 2nd, Washington wrote back, "Hope to have new answers next week. Regards." 3 days later, the Secretary Office wrote back that it is difficult to offer any definitive explanation. Later, they stated that the trajectory of the object could have been a meteor or a fallen space debris that was coming from space, though the U.S. was unaware of any activity of aircraft or space debris in that area at the time. In 2012, Ted Mulkson said that the trajectory of the object had been really close to a fallen space debris, particularly a Soviet engine booster that was launched in July of 1976. This was tracked by the U.S. Strategic Command and cataloged in their Space Tracked Command, so they were either misleading or misinforming the Morocco government. Brings us to our second one, which is the CIA dump number 5, which is C055154647. This one was dated in May, and it says case blank, and there's interesting things within this page. So there was a telecom that was found, and it stated that this case is merely a month old, and the longer we wait and procrastinate, the more fuel we are adding to the fire. Also, the people of the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base are awaiting instructions, and they're hoping for the soonest answers back. The mention of Wright Field is kind of interesting because if you look at the main website, which we will link below for you, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is located at the northeast part of Dayton, Ohio. So where did Wright-Patterson Air Force Base get its name? And it's from the Wright brothers. Orville and Wilbur Wright achieved the first man-powered flight from their work in 1899 to 1903. On return home to Dayton, they perfected their flight skills on the Huffman Prairie Field. Way off of runway 23, there is a marker and replica of their hangar commemorating their early aviation accomplishments. Wright-Patterson is the largest single-site employer in Ohio with a budget of $4.2 billion per year. On this last one is the CIA Disclosure 6, which is C055156648. Its date is unknown and the file is heavily redacted, as most of them are. So this one does have some interesting code. One says refer WA 16990 by 66 under date 6/6 March redacted. Received a letter from someone named Davidson. Said blank, has a tape been reviewed by Attic X Attic at the Wright Field, which again brings us back to Wright Patterson. So in a follow-up inquiry, Davidson asked who could he forward it to so that they can so the proper parties could do the inquiries. They replied with he knew the proper address for forwarding information on flying saucers, which was Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So learning that Davidson made an inquiry there, apparently they stalled him, and then the next 4 lines of the paperwork is redacted. So we are wondering, could this be Leon Davidson? So Leon was a native of New York and was born in 1922. He got his PhD in the University of Columbia, University School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. Later he became an engineering design supervisor at Los Alamos, New Mexico, where he did research on atomic technology. So in the 1950s, he volunteered at the Civil Defense Filter Center in Plains, New York, which studied the UFO sightings in the metro area. In another file referencing number C000152243, so in here is a quote that Dr. Leon Davidson is on our back again. He wants a verbatim translation of the space message and the identification of the transmitter from which it came. Your attention is called to a letter to Davidson by Wallace W. Elwood by Wallace W. Elwood, Captain, U.S. Air Force by U.S. Air Force, Attic by Attic, dates 5/5 August 1957 by 1957, in which Elwood tells Davidson the message was identifiable as Morse code from a known U.S. by U.S. licensed radio station. Now there is a lot to go into on this file, so we might make a spin-off, but if you want to check out the file, we'll link it down below as well. My thoughts on these 3 files is that the more we seem to go further, the more interesting they get. I mean, given there are tens of thousands files out there, they might not all lead to something very interesting like these ones were, but it did seem to bring up Wright-Patterson Air Force Base quite a lot, which is kind of interesting. Giving our unacknowledged video, you'll learn more about that base as well from there. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Weekly Abductions. If you want to check out more of Culz Paranormal, check the link up over here. If you want to look at more Weekly Abductions, check the link over here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And turn that notification bell from personalized to all if you want to get notified on all of our videos. And feel free to write a comment if you want us to investigate or look into a sighting that you may have experienced, or you just want us to know more about and you want us to investigate it, because I'm always open to more ideas and the gang is too. Have a good evening.